Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Power Book 44 Season 1, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of this season. It is one titled Trust, and that is the big question at the heart of this episode. Who do you trust? Who do you side with? How angry is it going to make us as viewers?
Only one episode left. I'm really hoping that we're going to have a very satisfying ending to this season. I mean, this episode, there was some good stuff in it, but there was also some questionable stuff that I was kind of like, I'm just not sure. But we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are actually on the road to 60,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Thank you to everybody who has hit that subscribe button to help us reach this milestone. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's exciting. We are so ready to celebrate that with you guys. So we really appreciate that. Also, remember, Better Call Saul is premiering very, very soon. We are so excited. We are going to talk about every episode. We're going to theorize. We're going to preview. It's one of my favorite shows on TV. It's just like one of my favorite shows in general. I cannot even just begin to express my excitement here.
We are counting down the sleeps. We love the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're watching Power and you haven't seen Better Call Saul, there is time to catch up on it so that you can watch it along with us.
Okay, so here is the thing with Force right now is that I know this has the capabilities of being on the level of a Better Call Saul or the original Power in terms of content. You got a great character in Tommy Egan at the center of it. But, at this point in the season, I can't help but feel a little bit let down. It just feels like the writing for this season is not as strong as it should be at this point. The arcs are not as solidified as they should be. And I kind of understand why they're switching showrunners moving into season 2, just because this episode, like you said, there's stuff that worked, but there are some pretty major problems with it as well.
Yeah, the show feels like it has a great group of characters. There's some really great actors behind these characters. But some of the characters, it just feels like they don't really know what to do with. Like Diamond, who originally was one of the characters I was like, oh man, this character's going to be so good. There's so much they can do with him. He's such a great actor, great character. And it just feels like they haven't known what to do with him. I mean, we got a little bit of movement with him where this episode he figured out that Gennard is going behind his back. Yeah. And, he's sitting on it right now. He's got the information. He's going to, wait and figure out what he wants to do about it. But it just feels like some of the other story arcs that have been going on around him they're just a bit disappointing. They haven't gotten there with him, and this character is the one that I think has the most potential to be the most interesting on this show.
We're hopefully setting up for something really cool with him in the finale now, because the idea of him and Gennard really having this showdown where you've got their relationship before Diamond went to prison, everything that Gennard was doing after Diamond went to prison, where they are right now. This has a ton of potential, and I'm really excited for what they can do. They have just slow played the heck out of this, and I kind of just wish Diamond knew this information a little bit sooner, because then we would have more than just like one episode to deal with the aftermath of it.
Yeah, it just feels like, listen, Diamond is a really smart character. That's how they presented him to us at the beginning of this. But it's just he's getting snowed by everybody. His brother has been openly talking about betraying him multiple times in the shop that he's, working and owning. And it's just like, how many times was Gennard going to be able to just talk so freely about this without Diamond ever figuring it out? Everything that's going on with the journalist, that he was getting snowed by her as well. I know he's eventually figured it out, but they're making his character a bit too sort of just trusting of everybody. And after everything he's been through, I feel like he may have been a little more savvy than this.
All right, so the biggest problem that I have with this episode, I know this will be a big surprise to everybody that we're about to talk about Walter Flynn again, but here's here's the thing, Walter Flynn. If if this character was written, and as I know this is like the million Succession comparison I've done, but if he was written to be as charismatic or as interesting as Logan Roy, I could buy more the idea of Claudia and Vic sort of falling back in line with him a little bit better. But sort of the big question I just kind of find myself struggling with is, how did Walter Flynn build this empire in the first place? Like, what makes him different than any other generic crime boss that we have seen on any other show? And this is no offense to Tommy Flanagan, who was awesome on Sons of Anarchy. It's just like, you guys have not given him a distinguishable characteristic besides the fact that he doesn't respect women enough, and besides the fact that he is like really, really arrogant. There's nothing about him that just pops off the page. So it's just like, I look at Vic and Claudia and I'm just like, really? You're going back to this guy?
I actually understand why they went back to him. Walter, listen, it seems that he has seen that there is an opportunity here with what happened to Vic. Vic is very upset.
Yeah.
Obviously, he is dealing with grief. This is a great time to reel him back in, to be like, don't worry, son. We will get revenge for what happened to you, what happened to Gloria. I got you, son. And the way that Vic had been getting treated this whole time by Walter, where it's kind of like, you're a boy, you'll never be able to man up, you're never really going to be able to take the helm here, and that it's going to be, you're always just going to not just be ready for this. Now you're ready for this, because now Walter's able to kind of pull him back in, because Vic is in bad grief.
Yeah.
And if we've all been there. When we're in grief, we're not always thinking right, and we spiral around things that sometimes don't make a lot of sense. Like Walter being like, we're going to go after the Serbians for what they did to you. Also, let's put Tommy on top of this, where Vic at first was kind of like, Tommy, why Tommy? Which seemed to be the question of the hour that everyone was asking. Yeah. Tommy, what does Tommy have anything to do with this? Walter saw an opportunity. He threw Tommy under the bus, ran him over, was like, oh, he must have been jealous. Yeah, he must have been jealous of Gloria. I was just like, you're buying this? Okay, I'll let that go. It's probably the grief.
Probably.
Then we're bringing in Claudia, where she said the same thing. She was like, Tommy, why would Tommy have anything to do with this? Vic tried to, he had already bought the line about, oh, the jealousy. Maybe it's that, maybe it's this. And Claudia wasn't really sure, but the thing that Walter gave her is the thing she's been waiting for. You want a seat at the table? I'm going to give it to you. Listen, thank you for having patience with me, for coming around, that women should be at the table. Just give me some more patience. I'm going to bring you in. It's all she wanted, so I understand why she came in too.
I think I understand. I think I'm just in denial. Okay, here's a part of the problem. I think I'm probably older than Vic, so I'm going to just state that first and foremost here. I want to be Vic's like protective older brother here, because Vic, you've made so many mistakes. I still want to believe that you can, see the forest through the trees here. Somebody just needs to shake this guy and be like, what is wrong with you? You have a terrible father who is manipulating you left and right. He is totally coming in and snaking you at this very moment. And yeah, I guess I can understand Claudia. Tommy was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Listen, it's very difficult family relationships, especially when you only have one parent, and this parent has been sort of berating them and belittling them and making them feel like they're less than. And finally, when you do get that sort of little nugget of something, you eat it up. It's like the Succession comparison. Logan Roy does this very well, where he'll keep his children down until he feels like he's about to lose them, and then he'll dangle a little something in front of them to bring them back in just long enough that he can do what he needs to get done. It's just, Walter isn't as savvy as him. And I think the thing about it is, that would have made this like a really good moment is if it was revealed that Walter was actually behind this, and that he knew about it to some degree, to be like, okay, I set all this up so that I saw my kids leaving and now they coming back. And that he was really, this needed to be that moment, not just kind of like it fell into his lap.
We're going to talk about being in denial here. I'm still in denial about the scene where Tommy goes and, sees Mirkovic and makes this sort of arrangement where he can, get them on his side and he can find the truth out about the hit and all that. I really like your theory last week that PAULIE is the person who is responsible for all of this, and I refuse still to believe anything otherwise here. I want to think that that is where they're going, where we're going to find out in the finale that this was really PAULIE. Not everything was some big elaborate coincidence, and, Claudia didn't just happen to stumble in to all of this, because I would be really satisfied with that. I think that would be exciting and dramatic and set these characters up really well.
I think it's a much juicier story if someone on the inside of Walter's own, business set this up. And it makes sense that it would be PAULIE because he has this affinity for the family, the Flynn family over the family sort of thing. So, I mean, it worked out exactly the way that Walter wanted it to. It brought Vic back in. He even brought Claudia back in. So who really ended up benefiting from this? Walter and the whole Walter side of things, the whole Flynn family. And, was it really that much of a benefit to Mirkovic? Not really. It didn't really do anything. Like they killed Gloria. They didn't actually kill Vic at all. So, I don't know. It could be a situation where PAULIE decided to work with them to make this happen, and both of them are benefiting to some degree. But now we're at the situation where Tommy's been thrown onto the pile, and we saw PAULIE really looking like at Walter being like, Tommy, why is this turning into something? And now it's turning into a bigger problem than I think PAULIE ever thought.
Yeah, I think if PAULIE's responsible, he probably wasn't even projecting the Tommy part of it. He was probably just thinking, okay, you know what, this can bring the family back in. If we have to battle things out with Mirkovic and, the Serbian group down the line, then that's something we can ultimately do. Apparently, though, there's also I would not want to work with Mirkovic. That is the one lesson I learned, because apparently there's a price for everything in this organization.
Yeah, there is. But I mean, we did have that talk with Tommy and Mirkovic where after he learned that, Walter's bringing in the big guns, he went to Diamond, was like, listen, I need some help. Diamond's like, nope. And he was pretty desperate at that point to go to Mirkovic and be like, listen, I am in trouble. I really need help. Here's this money. I need an army. He's like, all right, I'll take your money. That's fine. And I'll give you this extra $500,000 if you tell me who's behind the hit on Vic. And he seemingly gave up one of his own guys, but he also sort of, I don't know, the way that he said it, where he was kind of like, it's not really our style, it's not really our thing, or whatever. It's just like, okay, he's kind of giving Tommy something, but he also gave up one of his guys.
Mirkovic doesn't. I don't understand the way that the Mirkovic empire works here. I don't know if he's just playing hardball with some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, this is where what you said earlier comes into play, which is that the writing's not very clear here on exactly what's going on, and some of it's a little bit up to interpretation.
That's where we are, and I hope the finale offers up a little bit more clarity on a lot of this sort of stuff, because ultimately, if I'm looking at the things I'm celebrating about this episode and sort of where we are this season, I think it begins again, no surprise here either, with the Tommy and Liliana relationship, where I think Liliana was still going on all cylinders in this episode. One of my favorite moments in the whole thing is, they're giving an update or whatever. Then there's just this awkward pause at the end of it. And she was just sort of what are we supposed to hug or something now?
Their relationship has really been such a highlight of this whole show. It really is. And the other thing that's the big highlight for me is just DMac. I've been talking about him all season. I absolutely love this character. I love the character. I love the actor. I love the story they've developed for him. We had the whole scene where it all finally came out, where Tommy was like, I know who you are. I know who JP is to you. Also, I'm your uncle. I'm not going to call you Uncle Tommy. And the minute he got shot, he's like, Uncle Tommy. I was like, oh, DMac, you better not die.
I also loved when he tried to call him Tom, and Tommy was just like, hey, nobody calling me.
No.
No, don't, Uncle Tommy, Tariq's going to show up at some point and be like, I'm the only one allowed to call him Uncle Tommy.
Yeah.
No, this whole story with DMac, I think, was really, really great. It's so satisfying to finally have this reveal. DMac, you are very, very ambitious. You are flying too close to the sun. You are obviously a genius with math. I question your ability to get, I've made it clear, Cousin Buddy's my guy. I'm a fan of Cousin Buddy and his one eye. He's a very interesting character. He seems like a very dangerous guy for a guy DMac's age and level of experience to get into business with, though.
The thing is DMac has been trying to prove himself a long time to CBI. And now that he is working with Tommy and Tommy's given him a really important role, I think it's just DMac wants to really show that he can do more, that he's very valuable. He wants to stay valuable and show that he can do even more if Tommy would just sort of give him the shot. He just wants to show, listen, I'm really ambitious. I can be here for the long haul. I can do a lot of stuff for you. Because he's young and ambitious, he just doesn't have the experience yet to really know when it's time to put on the brakes and wait it out or talk it out before he does something.
I think where the writing in this episode does shine is with the JP and Tommy sort of back and forth here, where I can understand fully why the two are both mad at each other for very different reasons. Like, if you were Tommy, of course you are going to be enraged about the idea that JP has been in contact with Kate. And I think that was Joseph's just finest performance as an actor in this episode, was him reacting to that.
Yeah. I understand why Tommy's mad. I mean, he has a lot of experience with what was going on with Kate throughout his life. But JP is on the other side of this, and he doesn't have that experience. He's now had this one phone call where she didn't really say anything. He just said, hey, I'm your son, and Miriam's dead. And that was it. And when he tried to call her back, she's disconnected the number. I just think at any age, if you don't know who your parents are, you have questions. It just doesn't ever really stop. It's very difficult. So Tommy's not going to get that side of things no matter what, because he knows what Kate is like and he knows the can of worms that's going to be opened.
I also understand why Tommy didn't tell JP about DMac right away. I think he wanted to feel out the situation. I think he wanted to sort of understand the variables. But if I'm JP, I'm also like, I get it. But I also I understand why JP is very mad. Because if I was JP, I would be really, really mad about it too.
Oh, that was a big no. That one I didn't actually understand as much. Tommy knows how JP's heart is heavy over everything that's happened with his son and that he does want to reconnect. Now he knows that this is JP's son. There's no reason not to tell him. Like, what is he sitting on?
I think he was afraid of JP getting hurt. And I think Tommy thinks he's this protector and he has to make sure that JP was, because he was so resistant of even putting him in the business. So I think it may not have been right, but I think that's where his mindset was.
JP was already hurting. Like, he was already hurting not having his son around. Is he going to be more hurt that his son is around? No, at least he has an opportunity to take some of that hurt away. The motivation just wasn't there.
I think just to me, it's a situation where Tommy did a not great thing with what I think he thought were the best of intentions. I think that these two brothers are going to be able to get past both of these things.
Yes.
But it's all a question of whether or not they're really going to in the finale, or if this is going to be something they are just going to make us wait until season 2 to see.
Well, I think a lot of it is going to depend on if DMac is dead. Because if Tommy sat on this all this time, even for a minute, it wouldn't matter if JP now has no opportunity to ever get to know his son, and he could have had a week or 2 weeks, a couple days, a minute, anything. If he dies, that relationship with JP and Tommy would be done.
I think I'm just assuming, and maybe I'm wrongfully assuming, but I'm assuming that DMac is going to be okay because
I assume so.
if you guys
I
get
hope
rid
so.
of Gloria and then DMac within the span of like 3 episodes, that's gonna be a problem because DMac is one of your like 3 or 4 best characters on this show.
He is one of the best characters on this show. He absolutely can't go.
I think ultimately, this episode has a lot of issues. We've already went through the Walter of it all, but with just an episode left, I do think there's potential for payoff. We still have a strong anchor in Tommy at the center of all of this. And I think that's always going to be an opportunity to really build this up. And I think make it like the Power Universe show that everyone really wanted it to be going in.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a new showrunner on it. We've got a season 2 coming up. I mean, there's a lot of potential. Like I said, there's a lot of really good characters with strong actors behind them that just need to have a bit more fleshed out stories of what they're doing and what their motivations are, especially Walter Flynn.
All right, well, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 60,000. We really appreciate that. And of course, check out Better Call Saul once reviews are coming up on that. And we will see you here next time.